I should be able to, you need what, mediums? Come to my office. When is your off period?
We finish after 3rd.
Okay, because I teach 4th. Come see me at 12.
We can just figure it out next week on Wednesday.
Yeah, that'd be fine. That would be fine. Yes. I teach at 11:30, so I will be available if you want to come to me on your lunch at 12:45, and I can get them for you. All right. So continuing on with our discussion about tissues, we've now finished our epithelial tissue. We talked about the 6 different configurations, our squamous, or our simple and stratified. Simple meaning 1 layer, stratified meaning more than 1. We had our simple squamous. What is a squamous cell? Squished, flat, very delicate. We had our cuboidal, cube, columnar, column. So we talked about, where we would see those different configurations. Why would we have them? Is everybody okay with the 6 different? All right, what was it called? What was the term for a layer of cells that looks like it is multiple layers, but it is only, in fact, 1? Pseudostratified. Good. What kind of cell makes mucus? I will.
I literally gagged yesterday.
She did.
I literally, I was about to vomit. Oh.
Okay, I won't do it. I won't do it. Goblet cell.
Yes, just thinking about it already.
Small sip. This is not true. Small sip.
Oh, no. When you say
Oh, I thought you had a
goblet, I
kid.
think of like goblins, and goblins are like trees. It's and gooey.
Okay, if that works for you, absolutely.
Gooey green goblin.
What kind of cell would be primarily for changing shape dramatically? Remember what the word for change. Transitional. That was like when we find in the bladder, where it can really, really get that nice big stretch. Then we were talking about different types of glands. What was the gland where we have no cellular sacrifice? Our gland just secretes whatever it is it's making. So we have endocrine and exocrine. I didn't form my question very well. Endocrine deposits its stuff where? Into the blood. Exocrine anywhere other than the blood. We had 3 different types of glands, and they were listed depending on how they get their secretions out of them.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Miracrine, we have no cellular loss. Just a little muscle contraction. Which was the one where we lose the top part of the cell? Apocrine. And then the whole cell, holocrine. Whole, hollow. Meerkat, miracrine. Apo means derived from apocrine. Apomorphine. Oh, Lord, don't talk about apomorphine. Every time I hear apple, all right, so we have 2 different types of secretions. We have serous, which is watery, like your saliva. Your saliva would be a serous, a serous secretion. And then mucus, which is going to be very thick. I won't do it. I have mercy on you for today. All right, so now we move on to the second of our 4 types of tissues, connective tissue. Connective tissue connects stuff. Finally, something that makes sense. It is the most abundant tissue in the body. It is found everywhere. Now, when we think connective tissue, oftentimes we just are thinking like tendons and ligaments, right? Connecting muscles to bones, bones to bones. But this tissue also includes stuff like our adipose tissue, which is fat. And where do you have fat? Everywhere. It's sadly everywhere. You have connective tissue that's adhering your skin to the underlying tissue, which would be like fascia is a connective tissue. This connective tissue, it does a lot more than just connect stuff. It's a reserve for energy. Like your adipose tissue, that's why you have it. It's your body's storage unit. So when you are called upon needing energy, but you've not taken in any, like for right now, I'm doing this right before your eyes. I don't eat breakfast. I'm not a breakfast eater. So I have not taken in any energy. All my cells got to get paid. So where am I getting the currency to pay my cells so that I can be alive in front of you? From my adipose tissue. What happens is my body breaks down the adipose, converts it into usable energy, and that allows me to be active in front of you. Connective tissue also offers protection. Your adipose does offer protection. See, I'm just laying down layers of protection, protecting all my organs.
That's all it is. It's just precautionary.
It's precautionary, you know, don't be a hero, just saying. It also provides the structural support. Now it is vascularized. Somebody tell me what I mean by that.
Vascular, like a lot of blood cells or a lot.
Yeah, it does have blood supply. It has high blood supply. And so those are the basics behind connective tissue. That's it. I'll give you guys a minute, furiously writing my little note takers. It's almost the weekend. And then we only have 2 more weeks.
I can't believe
it's
almost here.
2 more weeks.
Well, we get you again, right?
Do what?
We get you again after the Christmas break though, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'll teach you nutrition.
And this, do we have this one again?
You do have this one again, but not with me.
With this?
What? Anatomy and physiology.
We're gonna have a different teacher.
Because I teach you nutrition next term.
So we can't have the same teacher and the same with different classes.
So here's the deal with me is, so my class load, I teach 2 classes, 2 class periods per day. And then the rest of my time is spent doing program director stuff. Nutrition is kind of my baby. I love it. It's my exciting class for me. So if I can't do both nutrition and A&P, because that's 4 classes a day. So I teach the first half and then we pass it off and then another teacher will teach you the second half.
Okay, so how does like the sophomore, junior, senior thing kind of work? Like, is it each term or how
Each semester.
many- each semester?
So you guys are gonna be freshmen for another 8 weeks after the break.
Okay, that's not that long.
March, you guys will then become sophomores and the new freshman group will come in.
So,
And then 16 weeks later, you will be juniors.
I just got an email from corporate, a lot of the students.
That's
didn't do
crazy.
SS1,
Oh,
and I
you
know
need
they're not on campus tomorrow. If you did not do the survey in the library with me, please come and join the library.
all right, so let's get back into connective tissue. So connective tissue. So these are all of the components that make up a connective tissue. We have our extracellular fibers. And we're going to go through each of these individually. So you do not have to be like furiously writing down this whole list. We're going to go through each of these. We've got our extracellular fibers, which obviously are fibers where outside of the cell. We have our ground substance, which is kind of like our basement. It's the foundation. We've got different kinds of cells. We have fixed cells, and what that means is they don't move around. They stay where they are. Fibroblasts, adipocytes, you know what those are. Well, hooked on phonics, it's right there, fat cells. And then we've got our wandering cells, and these are cells that'll migrate all over your body. mast cells. We're going to talk about those. Those are really important. You'll learn a lot about those when you get next semester in your canine feline, because they can turn rogue pretty easily. Your leukocytes, which are your white blood cells, your macrophage, which are your big eaters, they're part of your military. So these are all of the components. We're just going to kind of go through each one and give a handshake, how do you do? So let's talk about the fibers. Or the ground substance. I didn't know which slide was coming up first. Took a shot. So this ground substance, this is where we have nutrients being exchanged. Everybody's got to get paid. Everybody needs nutrients, energy, glucose, oxygen, and then get rid of waste and carbon dioxide. So this connective tissue, the ground substance, is what we are doing, or what we are using to move the nutrients in and out of the tissue. It's also going to act as a shock absorber. A lot of our tissues in our bodies are mainly for protection. And so our environment is actually pretty hazardous if you think about it. And so we have a lot of things to help protect our underlying delicate tissues. And then this ground substance is also a barrier. Right now, there is an uncountable number of pathogens trying to invade your body. And so here we have a barrier to help prevent them from getting in. So those are the three big things that our ground substance does. Exchange nutrients, shock absorber, provides a barrier. Now we've got our fibers. So we have three different types of fibers. The first one is known as collagenous. You guys may have heard like collagen. Right, yeah. Collagen is very thick and very strong. We have a lot of different areas where we have these collagenous fibers. Collagen is what keeps your skin on the underlying tissue. Unfortunately, we've got this thing on this planet called gravity, and gravity works. And gravity is pulling on you right now. It's keeping us on the floor, preventing us from floating away, but it's constantly pulling on your skin. And so what happens after time, unfortunately, it gets your skin loose because it's constantly dragging and pulling on your skin. And that's when the collagen fibers, just like an elastic band that you stretch over and over and over, what ends up happening? It kind of loses its shape. That's the same thing that happens to the fibers underneath your skin. And that's what causes you to get wrinkles as you get old. Because the skin is much looser. And that's when you can go and get, collagen injections or Botox.
You're just making a face.
Yeah, no, hard no. Collagen, though, is also found in your tendons and ligaments. And so it is meant to be withstanding stretch and force. Sometimes we do call them white fibers. Our tendons and our ligaments, holy smokes, these are super...
Did she freeze?
What?
Did she freeze?
Apparently, yeah, if you froze.
Did I freeze?
You did for like half a second there.
Okay. Like, I'm on my hotspot right now, so this internet should be strong and good.
Come on, Edward.
Edward has not failed me yet. All right, so tendons and ligaments are super duper duper strong, especially your ligaments, which attach your bones to other bones. And they are formed with these collagenous fibers. Imagine I have one elastic band, right? Super easy to stretch. But now if I take 100 elastic bands, now it's much, much stronger. And that's what we see here in these connective tissues. We have many, many, many of these bands that help to strengthen and prevent that give. Because what I don't want is, for me to move my arm and have the elastic band just be like, wah, and my arm just like shoots off my body. I need a lot of these fibers to make it very, very strong. Yeah, like just like, and my arm flies to the back of the room.
That's Armstrong.
You can get their motocross.
Fantastic
You
for
Yeah.
can get their motocross.
Go, kid, whatever.
Reticular fibers. Reticular fibers are very delicate, and they do, what I like to think of in my body is they form a hammock. There are organs that are kind of suspended. Like, for example, my kidneys. My kidneys, they're way higher up than everybody usually thinks. They're actually way up here under my rib cage. And the kidneys are just suspended like a chandelier. But I don't want them to be, swinging back and forth to and fro. So these reticular fibers form this kind of mesh. This mesh web is what I was trying to say. This mesh web, and it forms a little hammock to help hold and support the kidney. So these reticular fibers, they are going to form around other organs and glands in your body, and they're mainly just there for support. So I do think reticular kind of like a little hammock. And then finally we have our elastic, which is exactly what it sounds like. These are the ones that are meant to stretch. Great example are your vocal cords. Your vocal cords are meant to stretch and vibrate against each other. You all know that sound is an illusion, right? There is no such thing as sound.
Right.
I mean, there is, but it's not what we think it is.
No, there's actually not. It's your brain's interpretation of vibration. So there is no such thing as sound. What's happening is my lungs are breathing out air, and I am controlling vocal cords, and they are vibrating. Those vibrations are exiting my mouth and filling the room. You have 3 little bones in your ear, and the vibrations are causing them to kind of bang on each other. This is converted into an electrical impulse. That electrical impulse is sent to your brain, and your brain is interpreting that as sound. So there's your answer to the question. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound?
No.
It does not. It makes a vibration. And if there is nothing there to interpret, pick up and interpret, then there is no sound. Right?
Our perspective is the sound, the vibration is the literal.
Our perception, our brain's perception is the interpretation of the electrical impulse that has been converted from vibration. If there's nothing there to perceive it as sound, there is no sound. It's just vibration.
They have different planes and different sound waves that are technically vibrations.
Absolutely. So you have some sound waves that are much slower and much stronger.
And those are
Or
very
like the
low.
echolocation for dolphins.
Absolutely. All of that is just different degrees of vibration. Our bones, the bones in our ears, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes is what they're called, are not very sensitive. We don't have very sensitive bones. So the range of vibrations that we can pick up is not very good. We've got our low and our high. Anything that goes lower than that low or higher than that high, our bones don't pick it up as vibration. And if our bones don't pick it up, guess what? It doesn't get converted to electrical impulse. Our brain does not interpret it as sound. Dogs have much, much more sensitive. So their bones can pick up very, very, very a great more diversity than our bones. And that's why when you blow the dog whistle,
They're like,
that's too high for it's so when we are
High
looking,
pitched.
you're talking about pitch now. And so you have low pitch, which would look like this, and high pitch, which would look like this. Well, the higher the pitch, the closer these waves are to each other. And the dog whistle, the waves are too close and we don't pick it up.
So what is it? What is tinnitus?
what tinnitus is actually nerve damage. And so it's where you are constantly hearing, but there's no vibration, right? It's where you have damage to the nerve and sometimes the cochlea. And so what the cochlea is the structure that converts vibration into electrical impulse. The cochlea could be damaged, or the nerve itself could be damaged. And that's now causing it to constantly be sending an electrical impulse that your brain is interpreting as sound.
What causes your like ears to bleed?
So that's exactly the same thing,
Like that.
tinnitus. So like when you go to a concert, back before COVID when concerts were a thing, and you come out of the concert and your ears are just ringing, what that is so the vibrations are so strong that these delicate little bones right now, they're just going, ding, 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 ding. Well, when you're listening to the concert, now they're like, sending massive electrical signals, and your nerve is like, I don't like this very much. And over time, you can damage either the bones or the nerve, the auditory nerve.
It's like those people that listen to like the boom boom in their cars.
And that's, and so that is causing the bones to really bam, bam, bam.
So that would be
I didn't, what was that?
Is that why deaf people can't speak?
Well, not, they can speak, they can't hear themselves.
different sound, the vibration.
So there's two reasons why you would be deaf. Either you don't have the bones to pick up the vibrations, or you don't have the cochlea to convert the vibrations.
I mean, you
So-
think.
So deafness is purely physical element.
Yes, deafness is a physical ailment. You either don't have, or you damaged the bones. That's why they say, don't listen with the pods in your ears too loud, because now the bones are going wham, wham, wham. It's gonna damage the bones, which the damaged bones are now not gonna be able to pick up the vibrations, you lose your hearing.
Is that treatable?
No,
No. So tonight, all that type of stuff's irreversible.
irreversible
So I'm gonna hear ringing in my ears for the rest of my life.
for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Like you go
I-
flip.
I'm right there with you, my friend. I have tinnitus. I also have secondary from temporal mandibular TMJ, which rubs on the auditory nerve, causing damage to that nerve. But yeah, I'm trying to say this. I was a child of the 80s.
Yeah.
So hairband, what?
Sorry.
That was when music was still music.
I'm an 80s baby, sorry. I didn't know what you're talking
Music was still music.
about. Walk around the boom boxes in the ear.
I have not, I've never not had it.
Like,
Yeah, so
now
I hear a high pitched noise at all times.
Yeah,
Like
I
a
have
high
to focus when I,
Is that why my husband acts like he can't hear me all the time?
no, it's really,
My
it
ears
is,
hit him
yeah,
with
it's distracting too.
And
It's like, it's hard to sleep.
reads lips. And you know, like with me, she can't like, and it's really hard for her.
Yeah, so I actually do have a pretty profound hearing loss. And that's my big problem. Like, I'm not trying to be mean when, like, some of you will say something and I'm like, I did not get any of that. Pre this, I could read your lips. I'm very good at reading lips. But now I'm just like, I did not get even one word of what
Are you gonna
said.
start looking into reading like facial expression, like the eyes?
Oh, I'm very good at reading facial expressions.
Yeah, because we have to write down everything we want to say to her so she can read it.
Right?
And I just feel so bad for just like.
They
that's
are
what
though
she goes
making
off of.
clear masks.
Yeah, I've seen those. They have them at the Square Place.
It's so goofy, it's so goofy looking too. It's
Right?
weird.
It's all language.
All right, so
It
let's
makes you
start.
focus on their mouth.
Let's go now and talk about some cells. So we've now talked about the foundational membrane. We've now talked about the different fibers, our reticular fibers, our elastic fibers. Now we're going to talk about our cells. We have some cells that are fixed, meaning that they don't move around your body. They are the small town girl that is born, grows up, and dies in the same place. They remain in this connective tissue. Example of this is a fibroblast. Blast meaning immature cell, right? I always think blast is a baby. Fibroblast is a fiber cell that is immature. Got a bunch of different types of fibroblasts, depending on what their eventual location is going to be. Like here I've got chondroblast. Tell me where a chondroblast would be. The cartilage. So costo
Yeah,
would be right. No, but you're very close. Chondro is cartilage. Osteoblast.
That's the
Oh.
thing that produces.
That would be a baby bone cell. And these are all categorized as fibroblasts. So anything that is considered connective tissue is a fibroblast, and then we further categorize as to where they are. Does that make sense to everybody?
Regional.
Regional, yes. As these cells mature, they transition from blast to site. Site meaning cell, adult cell. Then as they get old, they then transfer into becoming a class. So the C.
Is that when they like
Breaks it down.
deteriorate the?
Yeah, that's the senior cell.
That's when they go big.
So blast is a baby, site is an adult, class is a senior, and then your body takes it out of circulation. And usually will disassemble it and reuse whatever parts it can.
Because like with like the osteoblast and stuff, like the osteoblast like is the baby cell, and the class they help not to make the bone too thick, and it's just like they work together.
Yes, all three of these family members work together.
So it's basically the same thing but in different parts.
Yes, so osteo is the same thing in bones, chondro is the same thing in cartilage. So the younger, the more, so I say immature. Immature is kind of a very simplified way. Blast is super, super active. Think like a 2-year-old on pixie sticks.
No.
Oh, heck yeah. Or even worse, a 4 or a 5-year-old on pixie sticks. I used to do that to my nieces and my nephew. I have 2 nieces and a nephew. And I'd go visit them and I'd have pixie sticks in my pocket. And they'd come up to me like little baby birds and just open their mouth. And I would just be like,
I can't.
and then right as soon as they started vibrating, they're like, I'm like, gotta go, bye. So but at that point they are blasts. They are doing just work. As we transition to site and then class, they become less and less active, just like us. As you become an adult and then a senior, you are less and less active. Now, the thing is, my body, depending on my needs, if I need, I'm going to take bones, for example. If I need to lay down more bone, I'm going to take those sites and I can convert them back into blasts. I'm going to make them super active. Now, I know I said baby, adult, senior. Think of it more like activity level. So I have super, super active and then less and less active. My site is just kind of chill, doing his bone job. We're not laying down any more bone. When my body goes, okay, we've taken a lot of cells out of circulation, we should probably go ahead and lay down more bone. My site becomes more active and then we term it a blast.
So is it the longer it is active, the more active it is, the less capable it is of being active later on down the line?
No, there's not
So
there's
it's
not a limited amount of energy.
Okay.
It's just if I need to create, if I need to lay down bone,
When what's necessary?
blast is the guy to do it. If I don't need to really lay down bone, site, and then just for structural integrity, just there because he's there, class. Because my body doesn't need to be laying down bone all of the time.
Right.
If that was the case, my bones would be, the size of tree trunks, and they'd be too heavy for me to be mobile. So the only time that I really need to is when I damage a bone, or when I take senior and elderly cells out of circulation, off the bone. I gotta have something to replace that bone with. You'll get into all of this in a lot more detail specific to bones when we get into our next chapter, which is the skeletal system.
We've talked a little bit about it in that also.
Last class and
Well, no, every 17 years, the entirety of your skeletal structure has been recruited.
Right, so the cells are.
so basically what happens is, so my skin, take my skin for example, we all know I'm sloughing off skin. And if I had never ever lost a skin cell, my skin would be this thick by now.
All that huff stuff.
All that huff, a little bit of huff love for everybody. My bones can't do that because they're inside. So I have special cells that go through and break down and remodel the bone. And then I've got these cells that come in behind and replace that bone. So it's just the inside body's version of doing this.
Got you. Dusting it off and trying it again.
When you're younger, do you have less breakdown since your bones are growing?
Yeah, you have way, way more blasts because your bones are growing and you have these growth plates and it's a whole thing. We'll get into that in the next chapter.
Yeah.
The thing I love about you guys is you're like, we need to know all of the things right now. Adipocytes, oh gosh darn you, adipocyte.
I gotta learn to embrace them.
No, I don't. No, I don't. That COVID-19 gave me 20. I'm just saying.
Was that on purpose? Was that on purpose?
No, I made that up.
That was really cool. No, I said, was it on purpose?
You better copyright that. Someone's gonna take it.
Oh, yeah, right? COVID-19 gave me 20. Adipocytes are found everywhere in the body. They are going to be used primarily for cushioning, protection, and as a storage unit for usable energy when I need to call upon it. Our reticular cells, just like we just talked about reticular tissue, didn't we? Forms a hammock. Reticular cells are the cells that make up those fibers that form the hammock that suspend like our glands and our organs. So those are our different type of fixed cells. Questions, comments, concerns so far? All right, I'll give you guys a minute. How did you all do on your muscle bones test yesterday?
I think I did.
You think you did? Oh, that's right. It was, we did it on paper,
It
didn't we?
really wasn't that bad. I just forgot one word for like, it was the coccygeal bone, and I forgot. Like, my mind just went blank.
I
And then the
Yeah.
timer went off, and I was like, well, let's just go on a C word, because I knew it started with a C.
I'm more than I thought I did on that. On that
Good.
dog season. I started to it, I was like, oh my God. And I did
Oh my goodness. Now I get the very distinct pleasure to introduce you to your military. These are the wandering cells. We also call them the transient cells. Transient means just to move around. They don't stay in one place. These are your leukocytes. Leukocytes are your white blood cells, and they are your body's military. Let me just, you don't have to furiously write this down. It's just so you've heard these words before. You have 5 different types of military units in your body. Just like America, you got the Navy, you got the Marines, you've got the Air Force, etc., the Army, and the what?
Guard.
And the, oh, and of course, the National Guard. Heck, no, they're fabulous. They're amazing. I have a couple of friends that are in the National Guard, and they're, man, those guys sometimes are pretty crazy. Those National Guard guys, them and the Marines are kind of
I
backpack
was
crazy.
like, I was gonna go to the Marines.
They can tell you what colors taste like.
Yep, those colors, the crayons, and
Yeah,
like,
my stepson is in the Navy. So I'm very proud of our military. He's pretty awesome. But let me introduce you to our Navy and our military, not just our Navy, our military. Look at this guy is segmented neutrophil. He's the most numerous white blood cell, and his job is to wall stuff off. When a foreign invader is trying to get in, this guy comes up, builds a wall arm to arm, and says, "Nuh-uh, not coming in." This, I'm gonna not go in order. This guy is called this is a lymphocyte, not to be confused with leuko. Lymphocyte. This is the general. This is the guy that is communicating with the rest of your body and ultimately your brain, who's kind of the president overseeing and making all of the judgment calls. This guy is communicating and saying what's going on in the ground. What is happening? How are the troops? How is the war going? This guy here, this is monocyte. He's my favorite because he's slightly schizophrenic. He's got multiple personality disorder. When he's in your blood, he's monocyte. He's just mild-mannered. He's Brent Banner. When he is let off the leash and the body tells him to go into the tissue and start fighting, he becomes Hulk smash. And that's actually a really, really accurate analogy. Because when monocyte transitions into his alter ego, which is now macrophage, macro meaning big, phage,
Big eating.
so when Hulk is told Hulk smash, does he gently tiptoe around stuff and just takes care? No, absolutely not. That's this guy. This guy, when he turns into macrophage, he's taking out everybody. He is taking out friendly fire. He is taking out dead cells. He is taking out, he goes red rage.
Full Metal Jacket.
And it does not matter if you are a foreign invader or if you are a member of his own military, he is taking you out.
If you look at it, it kind of looks like he's going with this.
Right?
It does look like he's flexing.
These two guys are the bane of my existence. This is basophil and eosinophil, and these two work together, and they are more, not so much for infection, but for allergies. These are the guys that react to what your body perceives as an allergen. So when the pollen comes out and you get the pressure and the headaches and the snot dripping down the back of your throat, you can thank these two guys, because it's all because of them. And then finally, we have these things called mast cells. And these mast cells work very closely with these two guys, basophil and eosinophil. Mast cells carry something called a histamine. You've heard that word before. How? So here's what happens in a nutshell. So my body, my brain, my immunity group has decided that pine pollen is equal to Ebola. When pine pollen gets into my nose, my body freaks the crap out. And these mast cells, I'm going to say that over here, the pile of animals is the pine pollen. Mast cells come over and they have a little beacon. And they plant the little beacon. The beacon is a histamine. Histamine beacon, they turn on the light. The brighter the beacon, the more dangerous this area is. These two guys, their whole job is to go and fight these perceived allergens. The brighter the beacon, the more of them migrate to the area. The more of them that migrate, it's like trying to get 100 of you out of one door at the same time. The thing is though, like specifically if I've got beacons now in my sinus cavity, the openings in my blood cells, because these are all in my blood, the openings in my blood vessels widen and allow more and more cells to escape, to go fight and turn off the beacons. But the greater these openings are, the more fluid, I'm not bleeding, but the more fluid leaks out into the tissue, which is what gives you the pressure and the snot and the headache, the drainage. You take an antihistamine. What that does is I am now an antihistamine. Benadryl Antihistamine comes in, and turns off all the beacons. So now when you get that first little group of eosinophils and basophils, it's like, hey, there's no beacons down here. And the immunity group's like, oh, sorry, my bad. And everything goes back to the way it was. Nobody is fighting to get out of the blood. You don't have the leakage and the drainage. Clears up all your symptoms. Huzzah. So our macrophage, so the big one is going to be monocyte. But there are many, many other cells that also have this property of being able to engulf or phagocytize things, debris, dead cells, foreign invaders.
Fixed and transient.
Fixed and transient. Yeah, they can sit. So they can be transient, meaning they move all over your body, but if they get to an area where they have to stay and do a job, they become fixed. We have different names, Kupffer cells, microglial. We're not going to go into the detail on those. You'll get into that when you get into cytology. Those are just basically our macrophages. They're just the buzzard of the body. They really are. They're the carrion. They just go around and clean up stuff and take stuff out. This is a cell slide. Here we got a macrophage. These are what red blood cells or erythrocytes look like. And then these are thrombocytes. These are little platelets, the little tiny purple dots.
Could you stay on that slide?
Of course I can.
Are they purple under the microscope or is that just colored?
You have stained it.
Oh,
Yeah, so you've taken your blood, you've made your perfect slide. You let it dry. If you try and look at it right now, you're not seeing anything because the light up from the microscope is going to burn through the slide or through the cells. So what we do is we dip it in a stain. And different parts of the cell take up the stain differently. And that's why we have the dark of the nucleus, the red blood cells. It's actually 3 stains that you use together. There's an a blue stain, a red stain, and an indigo stain. And each of these cells takes up a different color of the staining. You rinse it off and then you take a look at it. So it just depends what type of cell took up what type of stain. You'll learn all of that, I think, in laboratory procedures. Next term, you're gonna learn about diff quick, methylene blue, all the different types of staining methods.
and we get to look at stuff under the.
And you're gonna look at stuff under the microscope. You're gonna be identifying your blood cells. You're gonna be making blood smears. You're gonna be looking at urine, feces, looking for parasites.
Vomit.
Yeah. No, we don't really look at vomit under a microscope.
You just.
You stick your hand through.
That'd be kind of,
Oh, no.
that'd be kind of hard to make a slide of it.
Of what, vomit?
Or just depending on the consistency.
Well, then
Yeah,
That's
depending
not
on
the
the
vomit.
Depending if it's that slimy,
They
that.
do?
Yeah, they put food on top.
Yeah, we put poop on
I'm
slides.
just envisioning it in so much more of a graphic way than it probably is.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like
I'm on